All right, back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. Our guest this morning is Professor Thomas Schwartz from over at Vanderbilt, political science professor. Phone line's open. What's on your mind? Let's take some more calls and we'll go to Sheila. Hello, Sheila.
Hey, Nick, how you doing?
Good. What's on your mind, Sheila?
I got a comment about this sexual allegation. This may not be nice, but I want to say it anyway. These people, these guys are making all this money. These women that are making these claims against these men, you know what you want? They want money. They want to get paid. I don't think these people did anything. They want to get paid.
I don't know. And with the professor on, Sheila, I've heard other people say that, and it kind of baffles me when I hear them say that some of these women coming forward to make these claims against these men who are trying to get paid. I don't know. In D.C., as it goes, you have made a point, and maybe this is what Sheila's referring to, that there's been hush money paid to some of these women. Right. Now, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of one of these women who were wrongly sexually harassed, touched, groped, or whatever by a powerful person they were afraid to say no to. And then they filed a complaint about it. And, you know, they can go public, or, you know, they're probably going to leave the office, not have a job, and there's money paid to them to say, look, you signed this non-disclosure, you go away, here's $50,000, that's it. I can understand why they take that. But I'm not saying that there's anything. They're not the ones that caused this. Right.
I mean, the claims are investigated, and if there's no grounds to it, you would assume they would not be paid. Now, obviously, you know, there can be probably false accusations, but you still would assume that there'd be some sort of investigation that would take place and try to ascertain this.
If you just bring a bogus charge against someone and there's no evidence, and the larger scale and the more public things, not in D.C. where there's not, well, we know Harvey Weinstein paid hush money to shut people up, okay, but you know, a lot of these women have come forward now, and including the woman, the first one with Matt Lauer, said she didn't want anything. She just wants, and a lot of these women finally, as they found the courage to do this, are doing so because the longer they just let that person stay there, the more people are victimized. So yeah, Sheila, especially when women like yourself, Sheila, seem to almost in some ways be taking the side of these scumbags. I just don't get it. I simply don't get it. You know, some guy drops his pants in front of a woman and he's her supervisor. I mean, that's wrong. I don't care who gets paid afterward. It's just wrong. End of story. Let's go to Cindy. Hi, Cindy.
Good shit.
Hey, Cindy, what's on your mind? And please, don't say something silly.
Anyway, are you still there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I was saying, do you ever read the Wall Street Journal? I read that every day.
I do read it. In fact, I have their app on my phone.
Okay, well, you know, they said the market has plummeted. It's really high in stride. And boy, we are making money, we're booming, and we're even getting paid more at our jobs. So I don't know why anyone in the right mind would say they wouldn't vote for Trump, because now he gets 100% my vote and a lot of people out here.
Well, what do you think? The economy seems to be doing well. The president's only been in office for a year. How much of the credit for what we're seeing right now, at this point, just a year in, can go to Trump or to policies not just from Obama, but prior to that have kind of worked to where we are now?
Well, it's an old saying within political science literature and the rest of the presidents get too much blame for the economy or too little credit, and too much credit. And the economy is well beyond any particular person's ability to necessarily fix or promote. Nevertheless, it's also the case that a good economy, I mean, Herbert Hoover was in many ways a very competent president, but the economy tanked on his watch and he took the blame. And in that sense, that's always going to be the case. This is one of the reasons why it'll be fascinating to see if the economy continues its health and if Trump is able to get a growth rate beyond 3%, which he's promised, whether that will redound to his political credit. It may be that it will, and it may be that, like the voter here mentioned, that she'll vote for him now, but it also is the case that he's alienated a lot of people with other things that may leave them.
Maybe so, but I think Cindy's right. I think the majority of Americans, one way or the other, tend to vote their pocketbook. I mean, I know there's other issues that are important. I think back to George W. Bush. Okay, a Desert Storm, and everything was riding. I mean, this guy at war, and he did some nice work there, and General Schwartz and all this, and you were thinking he couldn't get beat. and the economy tanked.
And the economy tanked, yeah.
And boom, he lost. And it was for that very reason. With everything else, he seemed unbeatable.
Yes.
And then the economy tanked. So it's pocketbook for, or they ask themselves, am I better off now than I was 4 years ago, one way or the other?
And that is the old refrain from Ronald Reagan of 1980 against Jimmy Carter, and that did the trick.
Yeah, it's a fair question to ask. Better off, but there's a lot of things that can define what better off is. Is your environment better off? Is your security better off? Is it just your pocketbook? For me, it's more than just money. Okay, let's go next to Cindy. Hi, oh no, we just took Cindy. I'm sorry. Grady. Hey, Grady.
Good morning, Nick and Professor Schwartz. You know, we got to put that scale down a little bit. We need a -10 to go along with that +10.
Yeah.
But, you know, EPA, you know, we're going to kill them from the tail and their tusk so we can bring them back to the U.S. We got an oil spill from the oil 250,000 gallons we put on a break in the oil line just recently. Now we're going to open up the nature in Alaska for oil drilling. How much more damage can this man do except set off a nuclear blast that'll go around the world, drop radiation on everybody? It would be once real good just to hear the man say something that's true. It's not by the people, for the people. Now it's for our donors. You know, how much can they give us? You know, this tax deal is for the birds. I'll hang up with y'all's comment this morning.
I don't know. The deregulation, you know, and the EPA, he's done some there to kind of ease. You talked about clean coal.
Coal, yeah.
You know, that's where, by the way, I was talking about it's not all about money to me. It's true. You deregulate and let business just run rampant and do whatever the heck they want. Yeah, the economy, maybe they're going to make more money. You may get paid a bit more, but are you willing to do that at the expense of the air you breathe? I'm not. I'm not, okay? So there has to be a balance there. But that's what I worry about the EPA. Is it going to cease to maybe protect some of the animals out there that are close to being endangered, or cease to protect clean air and clean water, which, in my opinion, you can't put a price on, okay?
Oh, yeah. No question. I think the issue may be just, it is usually one of, at the margins, you know, as to what extent environmental regulations may restrict economic growth. And that the administration is clearly on the line of encouraging economic growth. Trump was elected in part from regions of the country that have felt the burden of regulations, the coal industry and others. So he's paying back in some ways, or trying to pay back that group through his policies. But, you know, the voter, I think it's pretty clear. There are a lot of people who are going to be very upset if the environment significantly deteriorates, and that's going to be a voting issue. Yeah,
the whole thing on the Clean Air Accord and all of that. Let's go to Earl. Hi, Earl.
Yeah, Nick?
Yeah, Earl, go ahead.
Yeah, Nick, how you and your bees getting along, son?
They're doing good. Thank you for asking. They're getting ready for the winter.
Well, good. Nick, about what's going on up there in Washington, up there in the Capitol Hill and everything, we all sit back and complain about what's going on, but all the blame ain't up there on Capitol Hill. It's in the voters of this country. If people don't like what's going on up there in the country, all they have to do whenever they go in that voting booth is vote them corrupt people out. That's all I've got to say about it, Nick. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, Earl. You know, you hear that again. It's easier said than done. We all complain one way or the other. What about that? I mean, it's true. And let's face it, part of, I think, the president being elected was that people were just frustrated. You know, I think there were people that voted for Donald Trump that really didn't care what he said. They were just happy that it was someone completely separate from the D.C. establishment.
Yes.
Completely. And meaning, some of them might be saying, wait, did he say that and I voted for him? Some of them might be saying that. But I think there are folks that were just satisfied with the fact that they threw someone in there that was different than the status quo in D.C. that everyone was sick of.
I think that's exactly right. I think Trump was...
he tapped into that.
He was...
To his credit, he picked up on it, did he not?
He was absolutely brilliant in his reading of the frustration of a large number of the American people who basically felt Washington is very comfortable within itself, that elites protect each other, they talk a good game, but that they really are not doing anything for the larger group of people. And essentially, he was sent to Washington to do something about it. Now he's there. He's also co-opted by it a little bit. He has has to work with people
Sure.
there. So the question is, and this is why I think sometimes he still uses the Twitter account as a way to keep in contact with those frustrated people by doing things that are not politically correct and stir up controversy at the same time as he's also working within the system to do things like a tax cut.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's evolving to some degree, but you would imagine that some of his advisors, not all, but some have maybe said, Mr. President, please back off on the tweets.
Right.
And clearly, again, he marches to the beat of his own drummer, and he is not. I mean, and some of his tweets, you know, maybe right on point. Others, frankly, are flat out ridiculous, or you're like, what did he just tweet? But he does that, and it must resonate with some folks.
Well, the one yesterday, particularly of retweeting a far-right British account that had videos of Muslims doing bad things, which may or may not have been false.
Well, some of the video was flat out
fake.
As
I
being
mean,
fake.
This is just terrible.
And
that's, you know,
he must have just seen the right then. That's what worries me about any president, just seeing that and instantly just buying into it and tweeting it. And then after the fact finding out it's wrong. And it's not just, oh, I made a mistake. Well, this is the president sending something out. Yeah. That can be pretty darn damaging. Is it in your opinion that the power of incumbency is as strong as ever still, or has it watered down? Because that goes to his question. Why don't you just vote him out? Well, easier said than done without campaign finance reform. And if you're an incumbent, be it a president or congressman or senator, that is a huge, huge advantage usually over your challengers.
Absolutely, and still you're talking 90% rate of return in terms of like incumbents winning. So it's still a powerful advantage.
And what do you think the biggest advantage is to being an incumbent?
The ability to fundraise, particularly the donors who see you in office and feel that you can do something there. And I think that is just a powerful tool that can be used.
So it comes down to money, and then
money in
the
politics,
question would be then maybe campaign finance reform, and of course the Supreme Court's ruled on donations and the constitutional right to give, but unless the money is addressed, I think it'll remain that way. Unless you have, you know, you rarely have those candidates that come along that have a huge deep docket book of their own, right? They can pay their own way.
The money is on both sides. I mean, the Democrats have enormous numbers of millionaires. So the money in politics and the fact that political figures can still do a lot for donors is going to make the price of those offices continue to rise.
We'll take a break, come back in the final segment. Brian, Lee, and others. We'll talk right after this.